So today, Don Nicholas is here to share some memories about the beaches and in particular Treasure Island, for the Tales of Treasure Island for the Historical Society. So Don, where did you originate from before you came to the beaches?
My family was out of Cincinnati, Ohio. We came down here in 1949. Absolutely, I was 4 years old. Moved to St. Pete Beach.
And why did they pick St. Pete Beach? Do you know?
I don't know. I know my aunt and uncle used to vacation here. And came down and brought back some tales, and Dad said, geez, the beach would be a nice place to live. He was right.
And how about your schools? So you were here pretty early.
First grade class at St. John's. Went to Sunny Hours kindergarten for a year, and then the first graders at St. John's.
And tell us about that Sunny Hours. Where were they located and what was that like?
They were up on St. Pete Beach, right on the Gulf. Little bitty place. I remember taking naps on the floor and playing on the beach, and they promised us at the end of the year we'd get to use the bows and arrows. A couple of us guys had some seagulls in mind, but it never happened. It never happened.
So Don, when you were at Sunny Hours, did the kids wear bathing suits? Did you go swimming? What did they do?
On occasion we'd go swimming, and yes, we had our towel. Bring your towel with you on swim day, and your trunks, and be sure to take your nap. Always got to take your nap.
And that was kindergarten?
Yes.
Okay.
Preschool.
Preschool?
Yeah.
And where was it located?
Up on Gulf Boulevard, down around, it was, down by Dolphin Village, in that area on the Gulf.
Wow.
Was my recollection anyway. Yeah.
And then there was a drive-in on St. Pete Beach?
There certainly was. You mentioned the drive-in, everybody goes, oh, the Skyview. I said, no, that was in South Pasadena. It was the Gulf Winds drive-in. It was right on the beach. Right on the beach. The only movies I remember seeing there are The African Queen and The Three Stooges Go to Mars. I don't know why I remember those, but for true. And when they tore the place down, we went down there and they had the seating outside where you could sit, and they had the little seats, and we knew that there'd be money and stuff under the boards. So when they tore the theater down there, we went up under there and probably 4 cents and 200 cockroaches. We found nothing.
So when you were in St. John's, everybody bicycled around, I'm sure.
Bicycled,
and
walked
scooters.
Yeah. A little later had the scooters. When we were 14, a bunch of us had scooters. Ran all over this county, all up and down the beach. I had a little Cushman, a couple little Cushmans. And friends had Mustangs, and Vinnie Caroni, he had a Tiger Cub, a little Triumph Tiger Cub. We had a lot of leeway as 14-year-olds.
And is that when you would kind of venture over to Treasure Island? What was that about?
We used to come over here a lot. In fact, the Stambaugh lived on 77th. On their dock, we'd swim over to the end of the island all the time and go over there and play. There was a lot of the Australian pines over there. That was our little woods. And I don't know what sort of naughty little boy things we did. I don't recall any, but I'm sure there was something going on over there.
Was that Rob Stambaugh?
Rob and John and Rusty and Holly. Yeah, right off their dock. That was kind of our launching point.
And that was, you would swim over to the
Sunset
very
Beach.
south end
Yep,
of
Sunset.
Sunset, where the
Right,
condos are
on
now.
77th, yeah.
And then when you would bicycle over, where all would you hang out on Treasure Island?
I know, we used to go up north end, up by, well, the Golden Phoenix. And now there's what is that one? The drugstore there, where Walker Ford used to be. It's now Walgreens. Walgreens, that was the site of Walker Ford. And across the street, I recall there was a trampoline center. You would pay your 50 cents an hour or whatever and go out there, and they had them mounted, ground level and dug out underneath them. And we'd go over there and trampoline away.
Right on the beach?
Right on the west side, yep.
On the west side.
It was on the beach.
Now, Don, is where Walker Ford was, I understand that was the Quonset hut where Ricky T's was their showroom. Is that true?
I don't recall that. I thought they were across the street.
Maybe they were.
And the Quonset set was there and always sold seashells and things.
Oh, okay.
That's the way I remembered it.
Yeah.
Frank and Clyde Walker.
Yeah.
Knew them as youngsters. They were a little younger than me.
Oh, you did.
Wild and crazy guys. Absolutely.
So on 107th, downtown Treasure Island, that drugstore, do you remember what the name of that was?
Bruders.
What was it?
Bruders. B-R-U-D-E-R-S. I think we went to school together. I think he was a year ahead of me. the Brooders. yeah.
And did y'all hang out in there? Was a soda fountain?
I don't recall hanging out in there. We hung out in a little place on St. Pete Beach. It was called Moore's Sundries. We called it Skip because that was the guy's name. You know, had the pinball machine in there
Where
and the
was that?
sodas. Right on the corner. It's this little art shop now. It's on the Corey Avenue on the northeast corner. Caddy corner from the bank.
Okay.
Still there. It's a little art store.
So when you were down there around the drugstore and on 107th, did that feel like a downtown? Like, did you feel like you were downtown Treasure Island, or it didn't really have that feel?
When you went downtown, you crossed the bridge, and you went
Okay.
downtown. That
So
was
there-
always going to town was yeah.
So there wasn't that feel on,
No.
on Treasure Island.
Or
Now,
St. Pete Beach.
Or St. Pete. It didn't feel like that either when you were
No.
on Corey, like it was downtown.
No. When you said town, it was cross the bridge,
Right.
get on the bus, whatever, and go downtown.
And what year would that have been? Well,
Early 50s, early 60s, because we started high school about then. Taking the bus down, go down to the movie theater. You know,
That was
I had
great.
plenty of nice theaters in the old days. Sure. What was the one, the file that you walked into and the screen was right there? You walked under the screen to get to your seats. Everybody's looking at you. Yeah. A
That's
lot
how
of
it
monster
was.
movies.
Yeah.
We were in the monster movies and the dill pickles. And the dill pickles.
We had the State and the Florida Theater and the Cameo and the
Roxy,
Capitol and the
Suntan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. So, now how about the north end, up around John's Pass? Some hanging out going on up there?
I don't recall a lot. We used to go down and check out the fishing boats down there and see the fleet and watch them come in and out. Sometimes went out with the family on the boats, or actually my dad. And there was the one boat down there, the Miss Judy. I don't know if anyone's mentioned that, but they hooked up with a whale shark somehow. I don't know whether it got fouled in the anchor line and then somebody put some hooks in it. But the whale shark was taking the Miss Judy. They weren't fighting it, but was towing them out. So another party boat, head boat, came by and asked the people aboard, if you want to stay aboard, fine. If you don't, we'll take you back in. So a couple people stayed on the boat, and I guess the whale shark finally got loose. But that was quite the story around here.
It would be.
Yeah.
So a lot of those boats, they actually were leaving from the Treasure Island side.
Yes,
Those-
that's
the
where
head
the docks
boats,
were.
as you
Yep.
called them.
Yep. The Atlanta, the Miss Judy. No, I think it was the Atlantis. I'm not sure, but yeah, a number of boats out of there. I don't remember what was on the other side a whole lot. Maybe we didn't venture over.
Cross the bridge.
Yeah, across the bridge.
Yeah. Did you do fishing?
here.
Did you fish off the bridge or anything?
I wasn't a big fisherman.
Yeah.
That would have been Barb's mother, was he? She still has the cane poles. I used to do
Yeah.
that J stroke to catch the
Paddling.
snook. And our good friend Terry Lee Hildebrand used to go down there 3, 4 in the morning and come by the house and throw a snook in bed with me and see what you missed. I wasn't a big fisherman.
So how about some of the hotels on the beach? Your parents had a
When we first came down, they both worked at the Plaid Room, which was in the Edward James. My dad tended bar, and my mom was a waitress there. They were there for a couple of years. It was a good time place.
when folks would come in from out of town, did you go there for dinner? It was always kind of a special place, wasn't it? That Plaid Room?
No, I don't think I ever got to eat there.
Well, there you go.
My first big dining experience, I think, was when we were little leaguers and we lost the state championship, and they took us to the place on St. Pete Beach, the Crown Room or something. First time I ever saw a steak wrapped in bacon, I had no idea what the heck that little rascal was. But yeah,
And you were involved when you were a child, just to go back to St. Pete Beach a second, of baseball a lot, and Miss Egan's.
Miss Egan, my dad coached Miss Egan's team for 20 years. Helped her out at the bar in the later years when she was a little older. And in fact, when they dedicated the field, on the field with Miss Egan was my dad,
Wow,
Don Nicholas. But yeah, he coached for 20 years for her
wow.
and had a way with the kids. I loved him. Mr. Nick. Mr. Nick. Good guy. Only coach I know that got a trophy from the kids. It's the only trophy I ever kept
Wow.
is his little trophy the kids gave him to Mr. Nick, the best coach we ever had.
Wow. Now, how about something that happened on the Isle of Capri in 1960?
The circus.
The circus.
Yes, that was way cool. Well, couldn't believe it. They had them all out. Had all the critters. And I don't recall the elephants passing over the bridge, but I've seen a picture of it in later years, and it shows, 5 or 6 elephants going out to, I think it's the Isle of Capri. And really amazing shot. Yeah.
And so was it in just one of the parks over there? Like
It was pretty
just
much
all set up?
undeveloped. It was pretty much
It was.
undeveloped out there at the time. It might be where I'm not sure. I know there's a baseball field out there. Mr. Lyons, I think it's named after Mr. Lyons, who was a good friend of my dad's. He was a big Little League guy. They were really good Little League buddies. Mr. Lyons was a good guy. I think everybody on Treasure Island knew him. I'm pretty sure the field's named after him. If it isn't, it should be.
Yeah, I wonder if it was where Sun Catch now is. That was a huge vacant lot for years.
And years later, there was softball fields in there, and I think that's where it was. Because I know we used to go over there and play softball also. But yeah, they had the circus.
came
Yeah,
to town.
lions
the
and
beach.
tigers and elephants on the. Whoa, amazing.
Now, how about as you got older, you started possibly hitting the watering holes? A few, perhaps?
Yes, indeed. Sunset Beach had some of the nicer ones.
And what do you remember? What's some of the ones you remember from Sunset?
The playground was one of the earlier ones. We were probably a little too young there. Had the plywood shutters that would open and the stools outside in the sand. And the Red Barn, my golly, sure did like the Red Barn. Played a lot of pool, and that was the place I ran my first rack of 8-ball.
The Red Barn.
Yeah, strange memories, Can't remember the wife's birthday, but I ran a rack of pool balls at the Red Barn.
Where was the playground?
The playground was down on Sunset Beach, north of, north of Hanks
Okay.
Seabreeze, I think. Right in there was a number of little ones.
Yeah.
But I remember the playground.
So when you
The
first
Zanzibar, everybody went to the Zanzibar. I remember when they brought in the Mexican food guy. I don't know where he came from, but she had a guy come in to cook Mexican food there. He stayed there a while, and then I think he went down to the VIP, and they still had Mexican food. But that was the first time we really had, a guy was from the Southwest somewhere or something, and brought his Mexican style cooking
Was that
with us.
Jerry that did that?
Yeah,
I can remember that.
Wow.
Yeah.
yeah.
So when you first came on to Sunset, would the playground have been the first bar? Possibly?
It's close. I am not sure. I know Roger has a postcard.
Of the playground.
Yeah. We were close to Sunset Beach because my best friend, Vinnie Carone, his parents owned the glass cottages right across the bridge where Mulligan's Plaza is now. There was a bunch of little cottages in there, and we stayed there, played there, swam there, fished. We'd go under. I think I had my first cigarette under the bridge. Get in his little boat and go under the bridge. Jeezy peasy.
Now, how about some of the other bars, like off of Sunset?
Jesus.
Chills.
Chills, that was one up there. I guess that's where Lana is. Lana's is
so.
now.
Pagan Dots.
And they used to put green olives. They used to put green olives in your beer. You get a glass of beer, they'd put a green olive in there, and we'd never drink them. And when your glass got half full of green olives, and I think it's time for you to go, so we started eating our olives so they didn't run us out of there in too big a hurry.
How about some of the other ones? You remember any other ones on Treasure Island? You would hang out?
No.
Not the hotels.
Pagan Dots?
Pagan Dots, I don't remember that one.
I don't.
The A&W root beer stand, but we were having root beers then, and root beers and burgers at the A&W.
So the A&W where, what's it called now?
I'm
Not
not sure.
Riptide, what's it
It's our bar.
Our bar.
The R Bar, yeah,
Right.
that's
So
about
did
it.
you eat in there? Was that an eating place for you?
It was for a hamburger and a shake and fries and whatever, and a root beer, and check out the local kids. It was good kids hang out.
You remember other eating places? Like hanging out, eating?
No, not a lot.
Yeah.
Not a lot. As a young family, but I don't recall eating out a lot.
Yeah.
I really don't.
How about storm action? Was there any, you remember any?
We were right here next door for Elena, I think. That's when we got
on
really
Sunset?
hit badly. Yeah, we had to evacuate. That was one of those storms that was going up the Gulf, and in the morning and in the afternoon, you watching the TV wasn't even on, and all of a sudden the storm took a dead right. Turned on that TV, my gosh, and we had to leave Sunset Beach. Took a lot of water on.
3 days, right?
Yeah, and the poor guy that had moved in downstairs next to us had just moved in. A kid named Fonseca with and he had medical problems, and he had no way to prove that he lived out here, and his place was underwater. You know, so we had to help at the checkpoint and get him back in there and clean his place out. But yeah, it was a mess out here. There's sand everywhere, water.
And what year was Elena?
I don't know.
80-something.
83 or
83?
something?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Yeah, yeah. Anything else, Don, that you can remember that you, how about any close calls with the police or Steve
Close call-
Lamb or?
Close calls, heck. We went way beyond close calls. In fact, I preceded Stevie in his activities. Yeah, being one of the older kids in the neighborhood. I got in trouble before he did. They picked up the slack big time.
And you were the one that scolded him when he was out there hanging out. where
I
he,
tried to
this
straighten him out. That redhead, no. He
Wasn't
was
there a
all
fight at Municipal Beach as well? Were you there? Were you with us
Yeah,
on that
so-
one?
Yes, well, yeah, Municipal Beach, hundreds and hundreds of kids, amazing. No gunshots, no stabbings,
That's right.
no drive-bys, none of that, an occasional fist fight. And I'm out in the front watching one, and one of the guys, non-combatants, well, what are you looking at? I said, nothing, and boom, I'm on my back out there. Went to school with the bloody elbows and a little knot on my head for saying, what, who, me?
Which municipal beach was that?
On Treasure Island.
Treasure Island, the
Yeah.
city
Yeah.
of
City
St. Pete's
Beach.
Beach.
It's where all the
yeah.
kids would hang out.
Yeah.
There'd be
Yeah.
thousands of kids on a Saturday and
Oh,
Sunday,
there was-
especially Sunday.
Absolutely, they were everywhere, and then they had the weights there. They had guys with the
Yeah.
weights. They had the bars and the hunks swinging from the bars.
And dancing, music.
Lots of dancing, lots of dancing. I didn't dance, but it was perfect. The cement with the sand on it, all their moves were good.
What about suntan? Was that Treasure Island? Or
No, that was the
dances?
suntan. That was on St. Pete Beach.
Oh, that was St. Pete Beach.
Yeah, started out over there in that little insurance building on Corey, then moved over to the new city hall. Yep, a lot of kids went to those too.
Do you remember when they had the Friday night fish fry down at the marina there by Blind Pass, where the Irwin Yacht Yard was?
I remember the marina and all.
Second story.
And what was the name of that one? Because we can never remember the name
The
of that.
Quarter
Deck?
deck.
Quarter.
Quarter deck.
No, upper deck.
The upper,
Upper
deck. The upper deck.
The upper deck.
Yes. Jamaica dogs. I remember those, but I don't remember the first fish fry.
Yeah, and you remember the night it burned? Boy, caught fire big time.
I remember I remember hearing of the fire. I don't even know if I was still in town at the time. The Navy might have had me or something. I don't know when that went up.
And Irwin was building his first boats in there,
Yep, in the back.
in the back,
In that Quonset hut back there.
behind Meyerhofer Shell.
Yes. And there was a pistol range back there.
That's
And then
right.
there was a club called the White Rabbit. You know, back in the early '60s. It was. I was only in there a couple of times, but that place was jammed too. Yeah. Rock and roll. Shanny Hogan's.
Shanny
As you crossed the bridge into Madeira Beach, right on your left, there was an infamous joint called Shanny Hogan's. Mazzarelli family or something owned it. But notorious joint. Then later years, it became known as Harold's and nicknamed affectionately the Rod and Gun Club. I know of two incidences of guns in there. One friend named Wild Bill went in there and asked his girlfriend to hold his pistol. So she puts it in her purse and it falls out, hits the ground, and shoots either him or her in the leg. Not real cool. And another tragic story was this Steve Kelly. Came back from Vietnam and went in there one night with a automatic rifle. And he was just going to shoot the ceiling up. I don't know whether he discharged one or two and it jammed and they got him out of there, but it earned its nickname, the Rod and Gun Club. And or Bucket of Blood or something. It was a wild and crazy place between the fishermen and and they weren't crazy about the hippies and nobody was, it's a wild and crazy place too.
Do you know anything about the Steinhatchee Seven?
Absolutely, absolutely. I myself was, let's see, I was on probation at the time, and we went out to race some boats. Gary King, Dave Stoller, a number of other guys took a motorhome and a couple of boats out to Lake Havasu to race. And on the way out there, Paul Harvey comes on, and now for the rest of the story. A couple of young men, 7, 8 young men out of Florida, were arrested in Steinhatchee, and those of us in the motorhome named 4 or 5 of the guys. I mean, we knew who it was. Yeah, they were. as good a fishermen as these guys were, they didn't have the tide table figured out, and their boat got caught on a sandbar, and they couldn't do a thing. And yeah, they all got arrested. They were very notorious. They hired Percy Foreman out of Texas to be their lawyer. They brought in Percy Foreman. I mean, here's a suitcase of money, Percy, come down and defend us. And they were originally given big sentences, but got reduced because they were all young. Most of them were under, the sentences were too severe for their age.
Is there a bar that goes with that Steinhatchee 7?
A bar?
Maybe down in Paso Grill?
They were a lot of Paso Grill boys, a lot of St. Pete Beach boys, probably Shadrack's, Seahorse, the Red's Tap Room. These are all St. Pete Beach joints, but yeah, that's where a lot of the action.
Unbelievable.
It was a lot of fun living out here, wasn't it?
It's a great place to grow up.
Yeah. You
Great,
still love it,
great
don't you?
place, absolutely. I've been around the country, not everywhere, but as soon as I come across the bridge, it feels good.
Yeah. Good.
Sure does.
Well, we sure do thank you, Don, for sharing some of those stories with
It's
us.
all right. It cost you
all-
$2, but what the heck.
Oh, we have it.
We hope you enjoyed the history and the tales of Treasure Island. There's more to come. We have over 57 hours of the tales of Treasure Island. So as soon as we can get them to you, we will. Thanks for watching Tales of Treasure Island.